All right, so we got some results to talk about. Actually, we have ones from this weekend, but obviously we should take a minute at some point. Actually, this is why I put this here. So there was a Kentucky 1K, and it had 32 people, and only 3 people were on Boba Green, and that's kind of what let 4 Hanless be in the top 4. And we get
Hmm.
this from one of our in our Discord. One of our Patreon subs said that he went 5-0, 10-0 with Iden Greens, almost Maddie's exact list before the top cut, and then he lost to Green Han in the top 8. And the
Ooh.
top 4 was 2 Han, including a blue Han, and 2 Boba Fett. So I guess the reason why I made this slide is like, what do you think about 32 people, only 3 Boba? Obviously, a very small sample size, but is it indicative of the card shortage? Is it indicative of people like not wanting to play Boba? What do you think? Because as someone flying to a 1K this weekend, I would like to know what the meta is going to be.
I think it's got to be card shortage. I mean, this like right now the game is so localized, and like we said, Steve opened 10 boxes and didn't get certain cards. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit of card shortage, and I think it's a little bit of like maybe people skipping steps in the meta. Although, I mean, Han, yeah, I
So
think
they
that's
all
it.
opened
But I like,
the home one boxes, but not the Vader boxes, the Vader Boba
yeah,
boxes.
I guess
Mike,
Vader's expensive right now.
did you say 2 out of the 3 Bobas made top 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think that's the more impressive stat.
Well, if
That
the
even though that not a lot of people played Boba,
Mhm.
like the percentage that did actually did top 8.
yeah, well, if the meta's all Han, like that's a feast for Boba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, yeah, what was it, Pixels? Shout out, dude. Good
Yeah.
job on that
And
event. Like
I just
that's the cool thing to see, like seeing people from our community take our decks or just the discussions we have and going
And
out
do
and
well.
doing well. Like that's what really this is all about. And
Yep. So I
that's
shagged the
awesome to see.
2 Hans from the top 4. One was a Han blue, and one was a Han green.
Whoa,
The Han green,
cool.
interesting inclusion of Homestead Militia, uh,
I
Crafty
like that card.
Smuggler. Yeah, Homestead Militia is okay. Like it's totally fine. It 3 is pretty jammed up. I don't know about 0 Akbar in a list like this, but I get it. Um, I
That
would
blue
probably at
Han.
least have one and then maybe another one in the board. But yeah, the Blue Han is spicy. It got a
Spicy.
little cut off at the top, but we get it.
Yeah.
The droids.
The droids and the lightsabers, so like not worried about traitorous. Um,
Mhm.
I guess just suiting up his low guys and then just kind of playing a yellow curvy deck. I'm not really sure. He's only got a couple yellow cards in there at all, like 3 Ezra, 3 Falcon, 2 Waylay. That's it. And then Sparks and Change of Hearts in the board, which is nice. So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just interesting in general. Like if you want to suit up droids, I think there are probably better ways to do it. But
Well,
Han's good.
I think what the top one's doing, which I think is really neat. If you remember the Chirrut Blue deck tech I did with putting the whole concept of that was you put a big booty thing out, and that's why the droids were in that. Also, regional governor. But if you can do that with Han, you get Yoda and Ezra additionally to the droids. So you've got 12 real amazing targets for the Jedi lightsaber, and also for wing lead. Well, 9 for wing leader, and so it's sort of that concept where you're able to play these really big cards early, and then probably puts a shield, like a shield on Ezra. Obviously, Waylay's going to be a problem in different things, but
Yeah, but
that's kind of cool.
with yellow, you like the big booty's nice, but you also could have done like what the guy, what Hunter Burdett did, which is like play crafty smuggler who comes with a shield. And I know his
Yeah,
booty's not as big, but the shield, combined with Jedi
It's like a
lightsaber makes him
booty.
better. Yeah, and he's not wing leaderable, obviously, but I don't know. There's just I think there's some. I liked your deck, and I would
really
and
good.
like you could play vigilance and stuff. Like the mono blue has some interesting legs. I just like
Mm.
if I wanted to add a color, I'm not sure Ezra Falcon Waylay are the reason. I guess he's got Han too, and he ramps. I don't look. I'm not crapping on the deck. It's good. It's just like not what
It's
I
in, yeah.
expected to
How do we
see.
take it to the next level,
Yeah,
or like where does this
and
capped out
I
at?
love You're My Only Hope, and he's got the top
That's
of the
cool.
deck all for that. So he's doing a
Yeah,
little casino move there.
I think I think this is sort of the reasoning behind why Boba's not played as much, is that people. want to be creative too. I think there's the price point. You guys
Yeah.
were talking about availability, but like there's a sort of creative nature if you do well. Like we don't have the boba lists up on the screen. We're not chatting about them. So like there's that concept of okay, it's one case, but if you get to innovate a little bit, and with Han is like a really creative platform, Chirrut's becoming that, Chewie, like you're, and then you get to have those conversations like I crush boba. Reality, you probably are best if you're actually just looking to win the tournament, like best suited to play Boba Green. But you get to sort of have those creative things. You look at the bottom one has the trooper, like the XX trooper in the bottom, and like
Mhm.
it's got quick
Oh, yeah,
reflexes. Like
97
there's a lot of
Yeah.
action going on there. You
Wild
get to be like, well,
sideboard.
this does this,
Yeah.
and this is what this does. And I think that's sort of what, I like Maddie has a ton of pride with like the Iden deck, right? It's like creative impact. And it's like, what's the next creative impact place to go?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be Boba. So I think that's why you're not always seeing Boba. I'll be interested to see like what happens at 5Ks.
Yeah.
Like, does
Yeah.
Boba spike? Because if you remember that European event, like it was all Boba at the top. And like, and a lot of those guys were saying like they were borrowing and figuring out ways to get Bobas and Vaders and stuff. And it didn't strike me that there was like a ton of product being opened earlier. People were figuring out ways to get cards, like bars and friends and stuff. So I think if people are traveling and like maybe going to Richmond or Florida, or if there's a local scene that maybe does like, with the price spike, like a 2-case tournament or something like that, like what would we see in that meta?
Also, with Star Wars, people play the characters they like invariably.
Does-
Like it's
yeah,
just gonna happen.
exactly.
And like how do you not like Han Solo? Oop.
It's also why I went 1-3 yesterday.
Because you like Chewie,
Right.
yeah.
He likes Chewie.
Take pride in yourself. You went 1-2 drop.
Part of our
Also,
brand.
that is probably the sweatiest local ever with the names that were at that thing.
All right, so this is I think this was a Winnabox in the UK. Stealth Moose sent this. This was a top 8 with 3 Bobas, a Palp. I think it was a red Palp. It's on the next slide. Chewie, Sabine, Iden, and Leia. This was the Boba that took it down. Pretty standard, all things considered. Doesn't have any spice.
To my point, next slide.
Yeah, I guess like the main deck reinforcement walkers is the spice.
Yeah.
That was won by the London guy like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
2 walkers.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense into like a big control meta. I thought there were some interesting things that went on. Like that top 8 is more indicative of what I think like a meta tournament would look like. Happy to see another Iden do well.
This was a
Even
red
if it fell
Palp
short.
that uses the Force package with like Fifth Brother, Seventh Sister, Darth Vader, Palpatine, and Force Throws and Fallen Lightsaber. That came in second, which is like pretty interesting.
Yeah, I want to love that Force user package, and I know they have Ozzel to like try to turn that on, but like sometimes you drop a 7th Sister on 5 resources, and you're just like, yeah. Now you just get to have your way with me. So, very cool. I'd like to see how it plays, but that's kind of my hesitancy with like the Force heavy cards, like Fifth Brother just gets ECL'd and like doesn't trade back because he's got 2 power, and you just feel bad. Like, man, I really want to love those cards, and the only time I've seen them kind of succeed is in Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But cool deck.
Yeah, tough to fit everything. Only 2 Ruthless Raider kind of makes me sad, but it's tough. It's just tough to fit everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ruthless Raider's insane.
Yeah, 2 Traitorous. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just another. And then this was the red Iden that also did well at that event. Doesn't. Oh, the I Am Your Father, right? That's why we threw it in there. This showed up.
Yeah. So like.
This showed up in
some
another
spicy tech.
list too, right? The Blue Vader deck that did well in Orlando, I want to say.
I think it was Atlanta.
Oh, it was at SCG Atlanta.
Yeah.
They had I'm Your Father too.
Yeah, they might have had 3 in that one.
So if I'm gonna play I Am Your Father, which I'm probably not ever gonna play, I would play it in red event Iden because, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like you have so much cheap removal, like entrenched and stuff like that you can draw the 3 and then just spike the next card, and you're kind of playing this stall game, so you're a little more okay with getting the worst result, but like if I'm ever in a position where I need a card to do the thing I want it to do, then why would I ever play I'm Your Father? And I think as people get better at the game, like you're at locals, they don't necessarily know what to do all the time, which is fine. It's a new game. Like at a high level tournament, I don't think this thing is ever getting it there for you, other than it's like, you know.
I'm just thinking about I played some games with a friend the other day, and he played I'm Your Father on me twice, and both times I just let him kill my guy, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't think that's what you're gonna do," and I was like, "Is that because you wanted me to do the other thing? Because like,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, I'm always gonna do the thing that you don't want me to do."
Yeah.
He wanted to draw cards.
I wanted to draw through. It's like, yes, obviously
Like,
in this situation,
targeted
draw
your
through with
worst
the bomb.
card.
So but this just gave me an idea because I've been behind the scenes working on a mono blue Iden, and I'm like thinking, ooh, is I'm Your Father good there? Because on 7 I could draw 3 and then pull a vigilance and play that vigilance. That seems
Yeah.
great.
If they do what you want.
Oh no, their guy took 7. I'll just draw the
Yeah.
vigilance next turn.
My 2-2. You
Oh,
sure
two
you don't want
turns.
to keep that 2-2 alive, buddy?
Is
Mono blue
Tarkentown
is
versus
spicy.
a 30 point? Like, is that a thing that people talk about? I thought it was usually 30 points.
Oh,
You did.
yeah. For Iden event, I don't want to sound like this, but I can't imagine wanting Tarkentown just because, like, the whole point of the deck is to make your life total effectively like 40 with the healing, you know? So
Yeah.
you need that wiggle room because the aggro matchup is pretty tough. That's a good point, Justin.
And he doesn't have a lot of ways to do incremental, like just a tiny bit of damage. It's really just Death Trooper. And he doesn't
And
have a
it's
lot of
so
units that are
slow.
just like putting
Yeah.
putting damage on and then finishing off with Tarkentown. So
Mhm.
yeah. I also sometimes these are just put in by the organizer or something, and it could be wrong. So
I Am Your Father's in the sideboard.
yep, he has more here.
Yeah.
Just wants to draw 9. Also restock in the sideboard.
Yeah,
Spicy.
I started playing one in my main deck and one Search Your Feelings in my event Iden main deck, and maybe I'll do a video at some point about it, although
That's smart.
we'll see. But
Need-
yeah,
Needs more mission briefing, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
here is the SCG Con top 8. They all split the top 8. They
Oh.
did not play the top 8. And we got shout out to Mephisto, who is the Boba Green in that.
Another, Discord
guy I've known for
Patreon
a long
boy.
time. Yep, he's in our
Nice.
Patreon Discord and like known him for a long time through Destiny. Good player from down there. So he top 4s, and I guess I grabbed this palette because it was one of the more interesting ones with all the one-ofs.
Mhm.
But a pretty well-rounded top 8. Sabine green, Sabine yellow, Boba green, Boba yellow, Iden green, Krennic green, this blue palp.
This blue palp's got some spice.
Oh, and
I
the
like
blue
that a
Vader,
lot.
the aforementioned blue Vader deck. Yeah, I mean, when you're just playing a little bit of everything, that is the definition of spice, right? Like it's just all spice.
I was very impressed with your palp in our games yesterday, and just like how we talked a little bit, like I was playing around cards that you weren't even playing because I didn't actually know your list, and I think there's a huge advantage of that right now.
So that's the big question, like especially for Florida, like we can't get a straight answer on if it's open deck list or not. When they had the event that was it the Lolly one or like Lolly, right? Lolly won it or the top
He
4.
didn't.
But like we were watching
Yeah,
the stream and they were sharing deck list before every match, like so you know
Yeah,
exactly what to face.
good
And like
point.
when you know that, like it behooves you to like have certain things in your board or have certain things in the main deck that will influence sideboarding. Like playing this deck with one traitoress. Now the opponent has to think about, do they bring in their confiscates or their
Yep.
fang fighters or something. So like that's such a weapon, and it goes both ways, Steve. Like you said, you know, either you don't know what I have, and it could be anything, and in a list like this is so spread out that like it literally could be anything.
Yeah,
But if it's open
you
deck
see this
lists,
list beforehand, you're gonna have to play around Super Laser Blast, even if there's only one.
exactly.
Yep,
Right.
100%. That's a great point. Yeah, there's some cool things to like about this. I think that the palps that I've been leaning towards with blue palp are playing more low cost units to either cycle them later in the game, cheaply, or just to fight your aggro matchup, which is obviously palp's biggest hurdle. So I like the one of Vanguard Infantry. I think that's cool. The only card that and it's like interesting, right? Because your worst matchup is aggro, but like Star Viper to me feels like one of those cards I only want to be ECLing, and after that it feels super slow. So I'm curious how that played out for for this Pal player.
It's possible he's like just leaning into the slow. Like there's nothing he can do about being slow because he's Palp. So like taking a turn to lay it, take initiative, and then sort of like keep initiative could be, a gameplay strategy that he employs in those matchups.
Yeah, well, yeah, I see that. With no overwhelming barrage, I'm just curious how you ever catch back up.
He has overwhelming barrage.
Wait, am I blind?
It's
Oh,
under
yeah,
the
bottom
star
left.
viper.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
It was so far down the list. Okay, never mind. Strike that from the record, court reporter.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
just think that's the way you have to do it. You just have to
Yeah.
take one turn to put it down there, and then build off of it. But
Do you have
that's-
that one turn against Sabine? Because I feel like you don't.
It's quite possible that with this configuration, you do not. I don't really see how you could, but yeah, I don't know.
It's a lot of cool stuff, though.
Yeah,
I,
for
I,
sure.
I mean, I like the spicy one of Vanguard. I might put that in mine.
I mean, it's a one cost that buffs another guy if you get it. It's totally fine,
Yeah.
right? It like makes all these 2 attack guys halfway decent.
Yeah.
And putting it like doing that to the Star Viper is probably like pretty
And then
insane.
use overwhelming barrage,
Right.
which is in the
Ooh.
deck list. Nice.
That could include